Human restoration, when treatment and recovery is not enough. The hidden architecture of Western dissociation. This is another presentation of human restoration, when treatment and recovery are not enough. If you find value in understanding the real forces behind addiction and suffering in our communities, please like, comment, and subscribe. Disclaimer. This content is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you or someone you know is struggling with substance use or mental health issues, please seek help from qualified professionals. Introduction: the illusion of the drug war. Every week you see it on the news. Record drug seizure, tons of fentanyl intercepted, major cartel bust, the cameras roll. Politicians take credit. The public feels safer. But here's what no one's asking. Why is the demand so astronomical? Why are millions of people in Western culture, from teenagers to executives, desperately seeking dissociation just to function? Why has numbing become normalized, even expected? Today, as cognitive engineers and human restoration specialists, we are going to expose the hidden architecture that's hijacking your subconscious mind, your neurotransmitters, and your community, all for profit. Part 1. The Dissociation Epidemic. Understanding what we're really dealing with. Let me define what we're talking about. Dissociation is any strategy that blunts distress or disconnects your awareness from painful thoughts, emotions, or social reality. This includes substances, alcohol, opioids, stimulants, cannabis, behavioral drugs, binge media, gambling, porn, shopping, ultra-processed food, workaholism. These aren't separate problems. They're all responses to the same cultural machinery. How? The scope. 70 to 90% relapse rates in traditional treatment. Overdose deaths at historic highs. Entire communities transformed into war zones. Children as young as 11 using substances to cope. Pope John Paul II called Western culture a culture of death. Looking at these statistics, we're beginning to understand why. Part 2. The demand engine. Social drivers that create need for numbness. Let's examine the 5 pillars of our dissociative culture. 1. Chronic stress and AMP precarity. Your body experiences ton allostatic load, the wear and tear from constant stress. Financial insecurity, unstable housing, unsafe neighborhoods keep your stress system permanently on. Your brain, under chronic threat, seeks fast relief. This isn't weakness, it's biology. To loneliness and AMP, social fragmentation. We have fewer deep ties, weaker community institutions, and transactional social norms. This creates social pain, which your brain processes in the same neural systems as physical pain. Drugs and alcohol reduce that pain immediately. 3. Normalized dissociative rituals. Think about it. Wine mum culture, work hard, play hard mentality. Alcohol as default at every celebration and grief event. Sunday fun day, binge drinking. These aren't accidents. They're upper-use social scripts, installed by decades of marketing. For ubiquitous cue exposure, you're bombarded with ads everywhere you look, influencer endorsements, sports sponsorships, push notifications, a liquor store on every corner. This creates cue-triggered craving that overwhelms your self-control systems. That's time poverty and AMP burnout. When recovery behaviors, sleep, exercise, cooking, connection, require time and energy you don't have, shortcuts win. The substance or screen becomes the only accessible relief. To Part 3, the neuroscience of hijacking, how your brain gets reprogrammed. Now let's look at what's happening inside your brain, the biological hijacking that makes this feel necessary. Reward system recalibration, incentive sensitization. Repeated hits amplify wanting signals to drug-related cues while dulling everyday rewards. Result? Ordinary life feels grey, the drug cue feels magnetic. This is called anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from normal activities. The stress system trap. Your HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, controls cortisol, your main stress hormone. Substances quickly turn down this cortisol-mediated distress, teaching your brain, this is how we feel safe. This negative reinforcement, using to remove pain, is more powerful than positive reinforcement. Executive function collapse. Under stress, your vast prefrontal cortex, the brain's CEO responsible for planning, inhibition, and self-control, goes offline. The very tools you need to stop are least available when you need them most. There are other videos that go into executive functioning in more detail. The habit loop prison. Your brain creates an automatic cycle. Cue, trigger, craving, intense wanting, response, use, reward, relief. This loop gets burned into your subconscious mind, which processes millions of bits per second, far faster than conscious thought. By the time you're aware of the craving, your subconscious has already initiated the action. Predictive processing. Your brain learns a prior, pain, drug equals safety. This creates preconscious action preparedness. Your brain prepares to use before you've even consciously decided. At Part 4, the reservation trap. The hidden back door to relapse. Here's a concept most treatment programs never address. Reservations. A reservation is a mental backdoor, the hidden thought. If this doesn't work, I can always go back to using. Even if someone says they want to quit, they leave a gap in their commitment. It's like carrying a spare key to an old destructive habit. Why reservations form? 1. Fear. Of pain without the drug, of failure, of trusting systems that have failed before. Distrust. 70 to 90% relapse rates make people think, I need my own backup plan. Subconscious protection. Your mind keeps an escape hatch in case discomfort gets too high. The fatal flaw. A reservation is like a crack in a dam. No matter how strong the structure looks, when stress floods in, it will break through that weak point. The decision to relapse was made long before the craving arrived. Part 5. Who profits from your pain? Following the money. Let's be clear about who benefits from this dissociative ecosystem. Legal industries. Alcohol companies, worth $1.6 trillion globally. Gambling enterprises. Cannabis corporations, in legal markets. Pharmaceutical companies, certain sedatives, stimulants. Ultra-processed food manufacturers. Advertising and attention platforms, selling access to vulnerable minds. Illicit markets. Traffickers and cartels profit precisely because demand is stable. They're not creating demand, they're meeting it. Institutional beneficiaries. Parts of the criminal legal system. Legacy treatment providers paid per episode, not outcomes, the revolving door, private prisons, media platforms. Outrage about seizures generates clicks. Alcohol and pharma are major advertisers. The gentrification game. Communities devastated by drugs become investment opportunities. The pattern. 1. Flood community with drugs and alcohol outlets. 2. Let it deteriorate. 3. Blame residents for not having resources. 4. Buy cheap, displace residents. 5. Redevelop for wealthy newcomers. Pathan. Part 6. Breaking free. The antidotes at every level. Individual level, what you can do. Metacognition training, while sober. Implementation intentions. If trigger happens, then I will specific action. Values mapping. Know why you're staying sober. Self-talk scripts. Pre-written responses to cravings. Daily regulation. Pillars. Consistent sleep schedule. Whole food nutrition. Avoid ultra-processed. Movement, exercise. Sunlight exposure. Breathwork, meditation, prayer. Peer connection. Urge surfing. Cravings are waves that last 15 to 30 minutes. Ride them out without acting. They will pass. Cue management. Change routes to avoid triggers. Remove substances from home. Turn off notifications. Create new environments. Community level, what we can build. Alcohol-free social spaces and rituals. Peer recovery networks with skill building, not just storytelling. Mutual aid groups. Trauma-informed workplaces and schools. Third places that aren't bars. System level, what must change? 1. Limit youth-targeted marketing. Reduce outlet density in vulnerable communities. Living wages that reduce desperation. Safe, stable housing. First, outcomes-based treatment funding, measured by sustained functioning, not bed days. Food policy, reducing ultra-processed dominance. The PAM. Part 7. The cognitive engineering solution, reprogramming the subconscious. As a cognitive engineer, here's what I know. Your subconscious runs on repetition and survival instincts. To break free, 1. Awareness. Identify the subconscious escape hatch thoughts. Use the glossary terms to name what's happening. That's attentional capture, not my choice. This is Chan delay discounting. I'm overvaluing immediate relief. My executive function is impaired right now, the 8 to 10 cognitive skills that are compromised when I use. 2. Restructuring. Replace old scripts with new ones. Old. If it gets too hard, I can use. New. I am fully committed. Using is not an option. The repetition of new patterns. Practice refusal skills, coping strategies, and new identity statements until your subconscious accepts them as the new default. 4. Trust building. Create new support systems that feel safer than failed legacy models. This might mean coaching instead of confrontational groups, holistic approaches addressing root causes, community-based solutions, not institutional ones. As time was. Closing. The call to action. For those suffering. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're responding normally to an abnormal culture. Your brain has been hijacked by systems designed to profit from your pain. But you can reclaim it. Start with one thing today. Remove one cue from your environment. Practice. One urge surf. Make one connection with someone who understands. Learn one term from our glossary to name what's happening. For professionals, stop treating symptoms. Start addressing systems. Every client who relapses isn't failing. They're being failed by a culture that profits from their dissociation. For everyone, we need to stop celebrating drug seizures as victories while ignoring why millions need to numb themselves just to survive another day. Western culture mass produces stress, loneliness, and non-stop cues to consume. Those forces rewire the brain's reward and stress systems so that quick numbing feels necessary. Seizing more drugs doesn't change why people need to numb. Changing the conditions that create chronic distress, rebuilding community, removing predatory cues, and training sober time skills does. A final words, this is human restoration, not just treatment, not just recovery, but understanding and dismantling the machinery that creates the need for dissociation in the first place. This can be done. Let others know a movement has begun. Because when we understand the game, we can stop playing it. When we see the reservation for what it is, a trap, not a safety net, we can close that door completely. When we recognize that our suffering profits others, we can choose to stop participating in our own exploitation. The question isn't whether you'll face cravings. You will. The question is, will you face them with understanding, tools, and community? Or will you face them alone, confused, and with a reservation in your back pocket? Choose understanding. Choose tools. Choose community. Choose human restoration when treatment and recovery are not enough. And end screen. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content on breaking free from the systems that profit from your pain. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Together we can build a culture of restoration, not dissociation. Be kind to yourselves always.